Hello and welcome to another episode of the Commander Quest podcast. Today we are going to be teaching you how to use syntax in scryfall. So this is level 2 of my How to Use Scryfall series, and this level is basically you type in text that means specific things and it will come up with things that fit what that means. So there's a lot of different categories of what different types of sets of text you can put in with varying degrees of importance and relevance. But the biggest advantages of using this over the advanced search is A, you get to choose exactly how things are split up. So, for example, if we wanted cards that said Oracle enters the battlefield with no spaces in between, right? With no separate. For example, if a card said enters the, and then it said battlefield in a different sentence, like a couple, with space in between those two sections, then it would not show up. Then we can just look that up. Oracle, O or Oracle, colon, quotes around it, enters the battlefield, right? Obviously, I'm going to cover more thoroughly how I came up with that and the different meanings of Oracle and all this different stuff, but the idea is I get to control that, right? If I do want what I said earlier, if I do want that to be shown, so if I do that, then I can just put the Oracle again on the battlefield section, right? I can do that multiple times, and I can basically individualize exactly how I want it to be formatted and what I want to show up. The second thing is I get to use OR. This is pretty self-explanatory. Rather than it having to match every single term, I can say, okay, I want it to be a goblin or a merfolk, or something like that. Third thing, just generally, I get more general power. There's not really much else to it. Fourth, I get negating conditions. Negating conditions just means I want you to reject everything that this matches. That can be incredibly powerful and incredibly useful. And the last one is going to be comparison operators. So I can say, I want my power to be greater than or equal to 3. Now, you do get some of that with the advanced search, but not to the extent that you get with the syntax. So that is 90% of the advantages that you get with this. The point is, it is significantly more powerful, significantly faster to use, and is just overall better. The only downside is you have to learn how to use it. So the way that I would recommend doing that is first, watch this video or read through a syntax doc that I will leave in the description. I recommend that you use the syntax doc anyways for the future. I want you to basically pour through the content, right? Make sure that you've been exposed at least once to each individual thing. I will be covering them all. Then, once you've done that, I want you to work on every single scryfall search you do. I want you to go through syntax. Then, if you are confused or you don't remember how to do something, go in that syntax doc and find it. There are categories and there are a lot of different things. Plus, if you reach out to a million different people, I'm sure, you could even reach out to me. There'll be links in the description. You could join my Discord servers, for example. And you can just go ahead and learn it. you can get better and better at it, and eventually you'll get comfortable enough with it that you'll basically be at the advanced level, and over time you'll just get more and more powerful. There will be a point which you'll be basically at the point where you'll be ready to move on to regular expressions. Now, honestly, in my opinion, regular expressions aren't even necessarily, most people I don't think should use them. I think if you're really into this game and you have some other use for them, or you already know those, then that's great for you, but regular expressions I don't necessarily always recommend for people. So, yes, this is going to be the second most powerful way to search. Regular expressions are amazing, but they're not really necessary. They're very much overkill. But that can be nice. You do get more power if you use them. So, basically, the way this is generally formatted, first of all, a very important statement. Always remember this. Scryfall is never case sensitive. I have never encountered once ever on this site where capitalization matters. Personally, I love that, because I make typos like that all the time. But do not worry about capitalization. This is very important. Well, I guess it's kind of not. I mean, if you just capitalize things, it's not going to make a difference. But it is very relevant. So, the general format of this is there will be a specific, we'll call them, keywords? No, that's already a thing. We'll call them search terms. So there will be a specific search term, then there will be a colon, then there will be the result, like how you're narrowing down that search term. For example, if we go Oracle or O, there will generally be an abbreviation for that search term, and then we do colon, and then we can say we want the Oracle to include trample. Or maybe we want it enters the battlefield. We'll put quotes around that because there's spaces in there. So, keep in mind, that is the general format. Now, there are going to be some exceptions, but usually that's what it's going to be. Alright. So now is the point where I'm going to stop going with general overview and actually go into the specific search terms and try and give an example for each thing. So, first is color. So this is a way to figure out either you can use color or C, ID or identity, and you can use, well, I mean, those are the important ones. So, if you use C or color, that means you are searching, say you want white and blue, right? Say you are searching for that. You can go with color, colon, R green, RG. That is going to show you cards that are red and green. You can also use quantifier, is that the right phrase? I don't know actually what they're called. You know, the greater than or less than signs, greater than or equal to, all that stuff. Equal to, not equal to. You can also use those. So you can either do color, colon, RG. That, we're going to use red-green as this example. That is going to show you cards that have red and green within them. You can do color greater than or equal to red-green. That's going to show you the same thing as the colon, cards with that in its color identity. You can do color equal to red-green. That's going to show you cards that are exactly red-green. Less than or equal to is going to show you cards that are red-green or red or green. and less than is going to show you cards that are red or green, or colorless. I missed colorless in a couple of those cases. But that's the general idea. So you can also use ID, which is going to, if you use the greater than or equal to signs, ID can be redundant to color, but the idea of ID is you can include cards that are less than or equal to that color identity. So in terms of mana symbols, right, you're going to do white, blue, black, red, green. Just type out the letters, so Wooburg, and you should just be able to stick them together. It should work great. If you are using multicolor, you could say we're going to stick with red, green. Say we're doing red, green. You can either just type RG, or you can type Gruul, Gruul, because that is the guild name. So they will support those. They will also support shard names, wedge names, and 4-color nicknames. Those are actually not the standard names. I'd assume that they know more than me about what the standard name is, but in my experience, people refer to them as what the ink treader, what the Nephilim of the color is. So ink treader, Dune Brood, ink eyes, right? I'm not sure about ink eyes, but ink treader, Dune Brood, things like that. Whereas here they have chaos, aggression, altruism, growth, and artifice. So those are pretty self-explanatory. Artifice doesn't have green. Altruism doesn't have black. Aggression doesn't have blue. So, there's also growth and chaos. So without green, without blue, and without black, that leaves us with red and white. So chaos doesn't have white, and growth doesn't have red. Simple enough. So those are pretty easy to just, off the top of your head, figure it out. If you can't do that, that's fine. You can just look it up or test it out. It's not that difficult to just get chaos. Just say color, chaos. See what you come up with. Alright. There is C or colorless for colorless cards, and M or multicolor to match multicolor cards. Simple enough. You can use comparison expressions. Again, these are pretty self-explanatory. You can do, there's one exception. One, do not put equal to. If you put equal to, just do a colon. That's actually a slight mistake I made when explaining it. Do not put the colon is cards that are red and green and nothing more. So that is the equal to. Do not put equal to in this specific case. There are other times to put equal to. So there is less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, and then not equal to. So simple enough, pretty self-explanatory. Not equal to is exclamation mark equal. That is a pretty standardly used expression, but there's a chance you might not know it. Alright, find cards that have a color indicator with has indicator. This is really uncommon and pretty obscure, but it's either a little symbol in the top left, right next to the name, or a little basically it'll be like a sun, or most of them are suns, but they can be other things too. Or a little colored dot by the type line. So I don't really know why those exist, or what determines whether they exist, or what determines which one they have, but they do. So if you want to find that, you can do that. Has indicator. Alright, you can find card types. So card types, you can find cards of a certain type with T or type keywords. You can search for any super type, card type, or subtype. So I could do type merfolk, I could do type creature, I could do type legendary, I could do type saga. Any type at all. If it is on the type line, then it is valid. Okay? Does that make sense? So type planeswalker. Anything at all that is on a type line will work. You also don't necessarily have to type out the full type. So if you did CREATU, then you would probably still come up with it, because it just searches on the card for those words. But if there was a creature, then that would be problematic. So it will just search for, so you don't necessarily have to type out the full card, so using only partial words is allowed, but you might find out about some really weird type that you accidentally picked up. Generally, I think it's just a little bit easier to see what you're doing and know what you're doing if you type it fully out, but that's up to you. Plus, it's a little easier for me to comprehend mentally, like having to stop myself and be like, oh, only type gobble, not goblin. It just doesn't seem like the greatest use of resources, of mental resources, mental capacity, you know. Alright. So, card text. Or you know what? I almost forgot. I need examples. Alright, so color identity, I gave plenty of examples. Card types, okay, I didn't actually forget. I am just wrong. Alright, card text. So this, I would say, is the most important thing you can search. You are searching for the text in the oracle of the card. You can either use O or oracle to find cards that have specific phrases in their text box, as the site puts it. So, if I want a card that says it enters the battlefield tapped, boom. Or whenever it enters the battlefield, or something like that. Well, I guess it would be when this creature, when whatever the name would be, enters the battlefield, do this, or whatever it would be. So, point is, you put O or oracle keywords to find cards that have specific phrases in their text box. If you are only doing one word, alright, generally there you will put quotes around the text. But technically you only have to do that if there's punctuation or spaces. Generally, my rule of thumb is if there's more than one word, put quotation marks around it. If not, then you're fine. Sometimes I don't think it's possible for that to be wrong, but maybe it is. So you can put quotes around it. If there's only one word, it's not going to break anything. If you're not really used to the program yet, I don't blame you, and it's honestly not a bad policy to just put quotes around everything. Generally, it does depend on which keyword you're using. For example, if I did type goblin, and I put quotes around the goblin, I don't think that's going to work. I will test it, honestly, right now. But if you are not using it, if you're using it on a type of thing, oh, okay, that worked. Alright, so it's possible if you're using it on something that doesn't support it, that it will break, but I don't know if there is something that doesn't support it. So yeah, I honestly, go ahead. If you just want to put quotes around everything, go ahead. But if something breaks, don't sue me. Not that you really could, but whatever. Alright, next important thing is you can use a tilde symbol. If you don't know what that is, that's the squiggly line thingy. You can look it up and see it. It should be Can't say this for sure because it's keyboards are different, but for me it's on the top left under my escape key. And it's with another really weird obscure thing. It's a grave accent. Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea what that is. Oh, okay. It's a back quote or backtick. There you go. So, it's with the back quote or backtick. Hopefully that helps. If you don't know, just look up the tilde symbol. Or if you're watching through YouTube, then there you go. It's highlighted. And I zoomed in a lot. Alright, so that is a placeholder for the card's name. So, whenever, we'll say, I'm trying to think of the elf that enters and gives you a land. Whenever Find Torn Elves enters the battlefield, you search your library or whatever it is. I don't remember the exact text, but we can just use, if we don't know the name of it, we can just use a little tilde symbol as a placeholder. That is incredibly useful because it just makes it so it can match so many more things. Alright, so this keyword checks the oracle text for cards. So what that means is basically it is going to, there's the text that is printed on the card, and then there's the rules text. This is what technically that card says and what technically it does. Obviously, wizards can't recall cards whenever there's a rules change or a phrasing change. So what they do is they have an oracle text. So if you are searching with this, it will search the oracle text. So if you have an incredibly old card that you're looking up, be incredibly careful with how you phrase it, basically. So one example would be dies instead of is put into a graveyard. Alright, you can also use full oracle text, which will include reminder text. Be very careful with this. If a card has trample, that does not mean, I'm just using trample as an example, this could be any keyword. If a card has trample, that does not mean it will technically have reminder text. The oracle text does not necessarily add on reminder text. So basically, if I look for excess, which is mostly 99% used within the keyword trample, if I look within full oracle text, then I am not going to find every single card with trample. Not every single card has reminder text. It is not that there's not enough room on a card and that technically does. It does not actually exist on all cards. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. I don't know exactly what separates that, but do not rely on your keyword having that in the reminder text. Alright, you can also use keyword to search for cards with a specific keyword ability. That seems like a much better way of doing it. But two things I have to say about this. One, if you just use Oracle or O and you put the keyword after it, 99% of the time you'll be fine. There's really not very much word reusing. WotC doesn't generally make cards that WotC does not generally make cards that have words on them or words that they use on cards into keywords. I'm sure there are some use cases, but it's not very common and you're not really going to eliminate very much by using the keyword ability. The second thing is, yes, this is significantly better than using the full oracle text, but if you want to learn this, you can. I just think this is going to be a thing you might want to pick up once you're more comfortable with using it. Once you are comfortable with using syntax, you can start working on the keyword search. Alright, so that is generally how you're going to do card text, but as I said before, there's something very important you can do specifically with this, but also for other things. If I want, let's see, so I want Oracle, I want an Oracle, and I want land and graveyard, right? So if I were to just type land graveyard, right, and put quotes on that because it's 2 words, and I search that up, that's not going to work. Do you know why? Maybe. Okay, I don't know why I'm asking. I have this weird habit where I'll ask questions to people who can't respond. I don't know why I do it. It does not make any sense. So the reason that it does not do that is because if I put Oracle and then I put that word, put words, it's going to look for those words grouped together within those quotation marks. They cannot be separate. And this might sound like a bad thing, but it's actually an incredibly useful thing, because the way that you make it so that it is separate is you'll just put a second Oracle in. You'll put Oracle land, Oracle graveyard. Simple enough, and then it's going to come up with cards that have the word land in it and the word graveyard in it somewhere on the card. This is incredibly powerful because you get to choose exactly how it's looking for those terms. It's very useful. It is very useful, but you do have to be careful with it and make sure you know how to use it. Alright, mana costs. So you can use the M or mana cost keyword to search for cards that have certain symbols in their mana cost. So generally, the way this is going to work is you're going to put a colon, and then you'll put in specific costs. So if I want something with, let's see, I want something with green and blue in it, then I just put M colon green blue, so GU. And then there we go, we have things with green and blue in the mana cost in our search result. Simple enough, that's the base level. The second thing you can do is for special symbols. So generally, if it's not a special symbol, you can optionally, if it's just white, blue, black, red, green, you can optionally put a curly bracket around it. A curly bracket, if you do not know, should be typed at the same place that you do brackets, and they're just like squiggly brackets. I don't really know how better to explain them, but if you're watching the video, you should be able to see them. I have them highlighted. Alright, so generally, you can optionally use those for just white, blue, black, red, green. But if you're using something else, this is the comprehensive rules outline of how to, the official text version of mana costs. There we go. That's how you phrase it. So, if you want to format something, for example, like a symbol that you can either pay 2 or you can pay a green, then you would just do brackets 2/green bracket. By bracket, I meant curly bracket right there. That way, that is how that will be formatted. If you wanted to do a Phyrexian mana, you could do curly bracket, red, we're doing a red Phyrexian mana, I guess, /P, curly bracket. That red could be interchangeable for any other color. So if I wanted to find the, what is it? Oh, great. I don't know if knowing the name is good or not, but if I want to find that legend that's for scarecrows and it destroys stuff, then I can just start putting lots of brackets and I can set it up. Alright, so let's see. So, boom, Reaper King. That's the card. So what I did is I put mana, I did 2/green, 2/blue, 2/white. Technically, I could also do that for black and red, but I figured 3 would probably be enough to find the card. Generally, that's going to be something you're going to want to do. You're going to want to figure out exactly how much you need to type out in order to find what you're looking for. And sometimes you'll have the search set up, you'll search it, and realize that there's a couple hundred cards. My general threshold is if it's above 200 cards, I'm hesitant. If it's above 300 cards, I'm not doing it. If it's below 200 cards, I'll almost always look through the whole thing. But keep in mind, searching through half of it doesn't do any good, really. Like, you're just not really helping anything. So if you need more, just look through the terms and figure out what exactly you can do to get rid of cards that aren't acceptable. A very common one would be maybe cost exclusions or something like that. Alright, so generally that is how you format it. Another thing you can do is you can use CMC. One second. So you can do another thing with this. You can use comparison operators. So you can say, alright, I want something that's 3 red, green. But I could either do equal, and it's exactly that. I could do greater than, so maybe it's 4 red, green, maybe it's 3 red, green, blue, something like that. I could do less than that. I could do anything like that. Something, or maybe just a not that. Just it can't be that. So I can use comparison operators in order to filter my mana costs. Another thing I can do is I can do CMC comparisons. So if I want something with a specific converted mana cost, I'll do CMC equal to 4, for example. Or I could do CMC greater than 2, or something like that. Any comparison operator, I can also do exclamation mark equal, would be not equal, in order to exclude cards with, say, CMC 4. You can also do CMC : even or CMC : odd. That way you can filter CMC how you would like. Alright, so you can filter cards that contain hybrid mana symbols with is hybrid, or Phyrexian mana symbols with is : Phyrexian. You can find permanents that provide specific levels of devotion. So if you do not know, devotion is a keyword, and it's basically the number of pips. Pips is not a word that most people know. Little symbols of a specific color that are in the mana cost of a card. And it will be the total number of those among all of the permanents you have out on the field. So you can figure out how much devotion it's going to give you with devotion : and then it's going to give you that or more, or you can use a comparison operator. You can find cards that produce specific types of mana with produces : This is incredibly useful for finding mana rocks. If you want a card that produces red, you can just do produces : red. Maybe, okay, I'm getting all these CMC 5 cards that only give me 1 mana. Alright, produces : red, CMC less than or equal to 3. There we go. Suddenly, we have a list of probably playable mana rocks in mono red. That's incredibly useful. We can also add in produces red or produces colorless. I'll go over or in a bit, but just to summarize right now, we could put produces : red, space, or produces, or space, produces : C. When I said produces :red, I meant produces :R. Don't think you can just type out the full thing. Alright. So, power, toughness, and loyalty are pretty simple. Generally, as a rule of thumb in this, if there is any value that comes out to be a number, you can compare them. So, power, toughness, CMC, price, anything like that, you can compare. So, you can use comparison operators, I've said that word way too many times, with power, toughness, loyalty, and total power and toughness, and you can compare them with each other, things like that. I mean, there's not really much else to say. Pretty simple. Power is POWER or POW. Toughness is TOU, well, I don't need to spell it, is TOU or toughness. PT or POW, POWTOU, or starting loyalty, loyalty or LOY. You can compare them with each other or with a provided number. So if you just type in, you want CMC less than 3, power greater than 8. Yeah, there's definitely cards with that. So if you just type that in, then you will get the CMC, let's see, CMC less than 3 and power greater than 8. So I can think of a couple cards. Boom, there we go. We have Death's Shadow, Ludwig's Abomination, Phyrexian Dreadnought, and Westvale Abbey. There we go. We have some results. So you can compare them with each other or with a provided number, and you can use as many of these as you want. For all of these things, as far as I know, you can repeat that keyword as many times as you would like. Obviously, there's some exceptions, which of course are obvious. For example, you couldn't say it has to be printed in 1997, and it also has to be printed in 1996. Oh wait, you probably actually could say that. I'm not sure exactly whether that would work, but you get the idea. Of course, there are exceptions, but the vast majority of the time, you should be able to use any number of these keywords, most of these keywords, any number of times. Alright, multi-faced cards, pretty simple. You can generally use the is : keyword for anything that's basically just miscellaneous. So, is split, is flip, is transform, is meld, is leveler. Boom, there we go. We have categories and that are just miscellaneous, so they put is on them. That's the multi-faced cards with it, but don't worry, you will be seeing a lot more is for just things that are modal. Next thing we have is we've got some is. So you can find the cards that are cast as spells with is spell, so that's going to exclude basically just lands and some other niche things, but pretty simple. You can find permanent cards with is permanent, so that's going to exclude instants and sorceries. Historic cards with is historic, modal cards with modal effects with is modal, French vanilla creatures with is vanilla, or French vanilla cards with vanilla creatures with is vanilla, or French vanilla cards with is French vanilla. So, generally, vanilla means it has no text at all. French vanilla means it has no text on it at all, except for keywords. Any keywords may be on it, not just evergreen ones. Alright, extra cards and funny cards. So this is a really niche use, but basically the idea of this is by default, scryfall excludes certain cards. So uncards, holiday cards, funky cards, vanguard cards, planes, schemes, phenomenons, memorabilia sets, things like that. If you want to include every single card in Magic that was printed for any reason, even if there's like one in existence, like proposal. If I were to look up parameters for a proposal that would match that card, by default it would not match, because it would by default hide it. If you look up a specific card name, it will match though, because, I don't know, it's just a filter, and it makes sense that that filter exists. So you can also use the isFunny keyword to match certain cards, but not all cards in existence. So that will include other funny cards, such as uncards, holiday cards, things like that. I don't know if there's an official list on which cards it matches, but you should be able to figure it out. And just as a rule of thumb, it's generally not bad to just say include extras. Alright, so next up is Rarity. So Rarity is pretty simple. You can find cards by their print rarity by using R or Rarity. So basically there's a couple different ways this can work, but if I just looked up R or Rarity, then that would mean if they were at any point printed at that. Sorry, no, that's wrong. If they were originally printed, I'm not actually sure about that, because if you do in rare, then that would be any card. It would be a card that has ever been printed at rare. And if you do new rarity, that would be printed at a new rarity for the first time, or original printing. So I'm not sure how just using R Rarity does it. Maybe I'm thinking it's the original printing, because it says print rarity, so that might mean original print rarity, or maybe the one it automatically selects, the print that it automatically selects. I'm not sure, but you can search for common, uncommon, rare, or mythic, and you can use comparison operators. So if you want rarity higher than common, so you just don't want common, then it'll get uncommon, rare, and mythic. Simple enough. This, honestly, I don't love using this, because there are a lot of hidden gems, especially if you're doing a niche search or a niche deck that are at lower rarities. But if you're doing something like Pauper, this can be incredibly useful. Or you could just use a legality filter, which, I mean, that would also work, but whatever. Alright, so next up is sets and blocks. You can use SE, set, or addition to find cards using their magic set code. I will leave a link in the description to an article that has all magic set codes. I would recommend you just do Control F for whatever set you're looking for. So maybe we're looking for a Dominaria. There we go. And it is DOM, because it just found it for me. Simple enough. Just Control F, find what you're looking for, and you should be good. Alright, you can also use CN or number to find cards by their collector number within a set. Of course, there is going to be a colon after that, which, honestly, for this, if you know the specific collector's number, it can be a good way to find a specific card or a specific print if you combine it with the set. If you don't, it's not particularly useful. You can use B or block to find cards in a magic block by providing the 3-letter code for any set in that block. So if I wanted to do the Ixalan block, I could just do RAX. So I could just say B for block, RAX, and then it's going to show all Ixalan block cards. So not just Rivals of Ixalan. As you can see, there's multiple sets here. So you can also do in keywords to find cards that were once in a set. You can do, for example, in LEA would match cards that once appeared in Alpha. Simple enough. If it was in it at any point. You can search for cards based on the type of product they appear in. So, box set So basically for all of these, it's ST colon, and then the spaces are underscores. So box set, multiplayer, beginner, core, expansion, masters, unset, portal, commander, dual deck, from the vault, premium deck, F&M, judge gift, arena league, player rewards, media insert, tourney, gateway, WPN, in-store, convention, set promo, duels, event, premiere shop, and masterpiece. Simple enough. Well, I mean, I don't really expect people to memorize any of this. I personally haven't used these, because I generally don't have a use like that. But, people might, I mean, if you wanted to eliminate, core sets, for example, or you wanted to eliminate master sets because you're doing, standard or something. Now, you could also just do legal and standard. I'm not sure why you wouldn't do that, but maybe, I guess, having multiple options could be helpful. So, you can also do cubes. This, honestly, I think is a useless search. So, you can find cards that are part of cube lists using the cube keyword. So, cube colon. And then you can do Arena, Grixis, Legacy, Chuck, Pro Tour, Twisted, Uncommon, April, Modern, Amaz, and Vintage. I don't really know how this is useful, but whatever. I mean, if you want to use it as a way to analyze and look at the breakdown of how these cubes are constructed, that's not really helpful either. There's a lot of different sites better for that. If you want to look at the deck list, I guess it's an option to do it this way, but there's a whole lot of better optimized ways to do that. And if you want to use it to, I do not understand the use for this. Now, I don't really know. I actually have built a couple of cubes, but I haven't built any cubes using the entirety of Magic. Only the one cube I did build was I cracked a booster box and I made that into a cube. Alright, format legality. It was Amonkhet, by the way. So F or format or legal to find cards that are legal in a given format. Of course, there is just a colon after it, or a semicolon. It's a colon, yeah. And simple enough, if you're playing in a specific format, especially one that doesn't allow a larger number of cards, such as standard, just throw that on. It'll make it so much easier. And you're going to eliminate so many cards that you didn't want to find. You can also find cards that are banned and restricted with the banned and restricted keyword. And you can find cards on the reserved list with is reserved. So current supported formats are standard, future, standard. So future they format it as historic, pioneer, modern, legacy, pauper, vintage, penny. They like penny dreadful, commander, brawl, duel, and old school. Old school 93, 94. So you can use is commander to find cards that can be your commander. Is brawler for brawlers. Companions for companions. Simple enough. USD. I'm going to remind you, I'm not sure if I said this earlier, but if any price or something has a comparison, has a numeric output, so power, toughness, loyalty, whatever it might be, then you can compare it. If I wanted something that has greater cost than its loyalty, I could search that. I'm going to do that right now. There we go. We have 155 cards where the price is higher than the loyalty. And if I wanted it the other way around, I could do that. If there is a numeric number, an output that is a number, you can compare it. May it be a little obscure and weird? Sure. But you can do it. So you can do USD, EUR, and TIX. You can also set it to show the cheapest print of a card with cheapest USD, cheapest EUR, and cheapest TIX. So this is especially helpful on Architect because you don't get, generally, you should be able to, not for which print it's displaying, but for organization, you should be able to select that after you do the search. But if you are using the built-in scryfall or Architect syntax search, you can't do that. The second reason this is incredibly useful on Architect is because without doing this, the price outputs of your deck is incredibly inaccurate. If you do this, you're going to have it much more likely to have accurate prices, which of course can be scaled up if you want to get a more expensive version. Alright, artist, flavor text, and watermark. Alright, so you can do artist, and then after that put an artist name or part of an artist name. You can search, if a card has more than one artist, you can search for that using artists greater than 1. You could do artists greater than USD. Again, I've said this so many times. We could do artists greater than USD. Because we can compare anything. Oh, I made a typo. We can compare anything that has a numeric output. Is that quite strange? Yes, very much so. But there we go. Now we have cards with more artists than we do than the price. It's a little weird, and there's so many of them because generally there's about 500 cards with 2 artists. But this came out with 5,000 results because if it still has 1 artist and is considered less than $1, I'm not sure exactly how that is broken down, then it'll show up. So you can also do, you can search for a card's flavor text using the FT or flavor keywords. This is incredibly useful. You can, well, actually, if you're working on a flavor deck, it's incredibly useful. Just going to add that caveat. If you're working on a purely technical or a CDH deck or just something that isn't flavor driven, then it's really, I don't think it's useful. Maybe it is. Maybe if you know the flavor text of a card, then you can use that to help figure out which card you're looking for. So you can also search for a card's affiliation watermark using the WM or watermark keywords. Or you can find all cards with watermarks with has watermark. So watermarks are generally just either magic symbols in the right corner of the art, the right bottom corner of the art, or little magic symbols. I guess they're technically planeswalker symbols, I think, but they always use them for marketing as an overall magic thing. I just think of it as a magic symbol. Or a little one in the left corner of the art. Of the card, sorry, not the art. Basically, like in the recent set. What was the recent set? Mystery Boosters. In the Mystery Boosters, it was like that. You can also use quotes if there are spaces or punctuation marks. For the artist, flavor text, things like that. You can find cards being printed with new illustrations using new art. So if you really care about the art and you want to see the new art from Double Masters, so we could go here, we can look for, let's see if it'll find it. Double Masters set code is 2XM. So we can search for set 2XM, and then we can search for new art. So now we have the new art in Double Masters. And this is only stuff that has already been spoiled and that has been updated onto the scryfall database, which is, it's pretty responsive. It's not the fastest spoiler engine out there, but it's definitely not bad. So there's 40 cards right now. There's some great art here, but that's the point. Like, you can search for the new art. You can also search for new artist, and you can do new flavor for new flavor text. You can also compare how many illustrations a card has with things like illustrations greater than 1. So if we search for and mess around, we can figure out the card with the most illustrations in Magic. So I already know this because I had to record this episode twice so far. And honestly, the first chunk of this is just, honestly, there's a horrible, horrible echo in the background, but whatever. So there should be, Stone Rain should have 11. I'm not sure why it's coming up with so many. Alright, so I'm a little confused, but Stone Rain has 15 different arts. So I'm not sure why it's showing up as if all cards have more than... Oh, I put the caret in the wrong direction. I was doing less than 10. So, greater than 10, there's just Stone Rain and the basic lands, of course. There's so many. If we did unique art for the basic lands, let's see. We'll go up to illustrations greater than 11 to get rid of Stone Rain, and boom, we have 1,000 illustrations of basic lands. That is so many. If we divide that by 5, that's like 220 illustrations per basic land. That is just absurd. I mean, I guess it makes sense, but still, it's just insane. Do they even, like, reprint arts on basics? Probably, right? I mean, they have to, probably. Alright, whatever. There's an easy way to figure that out. We can just do all prints. So, yeah, they definitely do. So, other than that, there's a whole lot of other searches. Again, once we get to this point, I guess it's not again, I didn't say this already. There are a lot of useful things beyond this point, but the lower down it gets, the more mixed the things are. So some of the things are super useful and some of the things aren't. This is one that's like medium, mostly not useful, but it does have it has a purpose. You can use the border keyword to find cards with a black, white, silver, or borderless border. You can do frames with frame 1993, frame 1997, 2003, 2015, future, legendary, color shifted, tombstone, and next touched. Which legendary, color shifted, tombstone, and next touch are frame effects. They're not technically frames or whatever. I just think of it as the same thing. You can find cards with full art using is full. New frame is specific cards. Is cards printed in a specific frame for the first time. Each card is available in non-foil, foil, or both. So if it's available in non-foil, you can look for is non-foil. If it's available in foil, you can look for is foil. And you could do is foil, is non-foil to find prints available in both. So in general, with most of these searches, if there's no overlapping, I'm not sure how it works with overlapping, but if there's no overlapping and you set a condition that you want it to be foil, for example, it will automatically show you the card that is foil. You know, like it's not going to show you a non-foil card just because it once was printed in foil. It's going to show you the addition of that card that most closely matches those criteria. If it doesn't have, if there is overlap, it might not be perfect, but it will work. And then you can find cards in their database with a high resolution image using is high res. So there's a couple things on this. I'm 90% sure they have all the cards on high res, because if you look for is high res, we will do that as, we'll just do all cards, all prints. So overall, they have 47,103 cards for all prints. And then if we just do, I'm trying to think of a meaningless search. We could do, I know what I'll do. I'll do legal in Commander and then not legal in Commander. So if we do legal in Commander for all prints, we have 49,000 cards. Alright, so not legal in Commander, we have roughly 800 cards. So, okay, I was wrong. There are roughly 3,000 cards, which is 6% of cards that they do not have in high resolution. But most of the cards they have in high resolution. Alright, you can also do games, promos, and spotlight. So game, paper, MTGO Arena. In paper MTGO Arena is digital, meaning only available on MTGO and Arena, and is promo for promotional cards in any environment, and story spotlights with is spotlight. Simple enough. Game keyword means in paper, in MTGO, in Arena, and it will show you the prints that are that. And you can filter by if it was ever in that game. You can just do in paper, in MTGO, in Arena. Simple enough. You can use year, or not necessarily year. You can do sets. So basically, you can say year. Do a numeric expression, so like a comparison expression, so like greater than, less than, equal to, whatever. And then you can put either a date in many different formats, so you could do year, year, month, month, date, date. You could do just the year. You could, you could do just probably year, month, year, year, month, month. By year, year, I mean four year digits. Don't just do 15, for example, for 2015. That's not going to work. Well, I don't think it'll work, but whatever. So you could do date or year. Date is for more specific, and then you can do date for after a specific set using its 3-digit set code. You can do reprints. You can do is reprint for a card that is a reprint, not reprint for a card to show cards that aren't reprints. Is unique to find cards that have only been printed once. Prints equals 1 would also work. Sets equals 1 would also work, and only paper sets would be paper prints, paper sets. So you can do comparison operators. So if we want more than 5 prints or whatever, we can compare that and do that. Alright, languages. So languages are a little bit weird. So you can request cards in certain languages with the lang or language keywords. If you're using it and even scryfall or the URL or whatever, any of the words on there are in your language, 99% of cards will show up in that language. But sometimes they won't. Now, whether language will A, fix it, or B, if it's missing those scans or whatever it might be in this specific language, I'm talking about English for my case, either it won't show them, or it just won't, or it'll just have it and correct it and put it in the right language. I don't really know, so I'm not going to make the risk, but putting that filter in won't make much of a difference. And there's not really any way for me to figure out how that works. Because even if I do find a card, I just would have to think about it and do a lot of work in order to figure that out. You can also do lang any keyword. So honestly, that just seems like it's gonna give you tons of languages, but whatever. You can also do new language to find printings of a card in a new language, and you can do cards that have been printed at least once in a specific language with in. So if you just do not want to play a card that was printed in a foreign place and never where you live, then you could put that down. But generally, that's not an issue. There's really not, if you live in America or Canada or really any English-speaking place, this isn't going to be particularly useful to you. And I'm assuming that most people who listen to me do live in English-speaking places because my analytics, I'm like 69% in America, nice, and like 20% or whatever in Canada. So I'm mostly in English-speaking places, and B, I am speaking English, so the people who are listening to me can speak English, or at least understand it. Or, I mean, maybe not, but whatever. You get the point. I can say I am targeted towards people who speak English or live in places that speak English. Alright. There's also shortcuts for basically land groups. So bike lands, cycle lands, bounce lands, bike lands, cycle land, bicycle land, all the same thing. Bounce land, Karoo, same thing. You're using the is keyword, so is bike land, or is cycle land, or is bounce land, or is Karoo. Canopy land and can land are the same thing. Check land, dual, fast land, fetch land, filter land, gain land, pain land, scry land, shadow land, shock land, storage land, creature land, try land, tangle land, and battle land is the same thing as tangle land. So basically, those are all the specific type of land that they are referring to, with the exception of dual, which will show any land that can tap for 2 colors. Rather, one color or another. So you can also use the is masterpiece filter. Not sure why this is in this category, but whatever. You can also use negating conditions. Now, I briefly touched on this in the beginning, but one of the most powerful things that you can do in scryfall, new with this update, with level 2, using syntax, is negating conditions. Being able to say everything that matches this, I do not want in my result. 1 second. What is this? Alright, I just got a spam call. That's fun. Don't you just love spam calls? Alright, so it's simple enough. You can just put a hyphen in front of it, or like the minus symbol or whatever, or dash, whatever you want to call it, and it will reject everything that it matches. There's also the not keyword for is, but if you just remember the dash negates it, then you don't really need to worry about not. Alright, regular expressions. So this is level 3. I will be talking about this next week, but for now, we're not going to deal with that. Basically, it's just a text recognition engine generally used in coding that can give you significantly more power. Alright, exact names. Simple enough. If you know the exact name, just put an exclamation mark in it if it's one word, and put an exclamation mark and then quotes around the name if it has a space or punctuation or anything like that. Using or. So this is another very useful and very powerful part of syntax. You can say, okay, I want something that I really love. We're going to use their example. I really love Titus Lunter and John Avon. So we're going to just get the basics. So we're going to say type basic, artist, parentheses, artist, Titus, or artist, Avon. You have to put the full search terms on each side of or. You can't say a Titus or Avon. You have to put a Titus or a Avon, right? So you have to put out the full expressions. So this also means I could have something that's either type Goblin or Artist Avon. Anything really I could say or between any terms. You can also nest conditions, which is just a good practice if you're using or. Nothing really else to do. Nothing else really. It just is. It can also be used if you're troubleshooting things. Just put them in parentheses and it will group them together. So you can do display keywords. So this is mostly useless. If you're using the base scryfall website, then there are options. Once you have searched, there should be cards as images sorted by CMC descending. Or, no, I think it's generally name by default. It should be auto, yes. So, if you search for something on the Scryfall website, you should see something. Cards as images sorted by name auto. So, you can click on cards, images, name auto, and you can change those. And that will change how it is displayed. Most of these things are that, but there's one thing that you can't do, which is the prefer keyword. This will prefer which print of a card it's going to show. So prefer oldest, newest, USD low, USD high. So that would also work with TIX and EUR, so TIX high, or prefer promo. So if you add that on, it will choose which one it would prefer to show you, and you can then do the rest by clicking these through. Clicking these buttons, bars, whatever. But you can also do that by typing it out. So you can, this is useful for many things. One, if you just want to type it out, that's fine. And the second is Architect. If you're using the built-in Architect search, you can't have that selection. You don't get to do that. So this can be incredibly useful. So you can also choose how results are eliminated. That is an option. So unique cards, unique prints, unique art. Generally, by default, it is unique cards, and unique prints and unique art are pretty self-explanatory. It will show if there are two printings of a card and they have the same art. Unique prints will show both of them. Unique cards will show one of them, or unique art will also show one of them. Well, you know what? Let's come up with a better example. So there are 3 cards, right, that are the same card, right? The prints, it has been printed 3 times, right? And the art is the same on 2 of them and different on 1 of them. So unique cards will only show one of them because it is one card. It is not a different card at all. Unique prints will show all 3 of them because it has been printed 3 times. And unique art will show 2 of them, the 2 unique arts. Simple enough. It can be useful for, generally if you're looking for a specific edition of a card. You can also change how results are shown with display grid, checklist, full, or text. So display grid is basically, so there's grid, checklist, full, and text. So if we did not legal in Commander display grid, then the way it would work is, I need to turn off caps lock. It is really coming off aggressively. So the way that would work is, I believe it's just images of the cards, I think. Yes, okay. So basically the way it works is there's just images of the cards and you can click on them to get more information. You can also do display checklist. So if you do that, the way it will work is there will be basically like every single card will get a line. So you can hover over that line to get an image of it, and then every line will have details about the card. So it will have the set, the collector's number, the name, the cost, the CMC, the type, the rarity, the LA, the language, the artist, the price in USD, EUR, and sometimes ticks. Not very consistently in ticks. But basically, I mean, I prefer to use grid just to see the pictures of the cards, and if I need more info, I can click on them. You can also use display you can also do display full. So this will basically mean that I made a typo. But basically that means that each card will basically get like a full screen. Alright, it'll get the image of the card. Next to it, it will have the oracle text of the card, the legality of the card, the prints of the card, the set of the card, the collector's number of the card, the rarity, the language, basically all the info that you get by clicking on it. You don't get all of it, but you get most of it. The only things you're missing are A, you are missing the rulings on it, and B, you are missing the ability to download a PNG image of that card. Alright, other than that, there's display text, which I think the use for this is if you have a really small data plan, for example. You just get text, and you do get man emoji, which is just like the little mana symbols. And I don't know if you're watching, you can see that my screen is glitching out, so that's great. But basically, you get just the text of the cards, which honestly, that could be all you want. You know, like if you just want to read the cards, it's not really that bad of an idea. Yeah, I think it could definitely be useful. You can also change how results are sorted with A, you can do direction ascending or direction descending, so direction : ASC or direction : DESC. And with that, you can do order artist, order CMC, order power, order toughness, order set, order name, order USD, order TIX, order EUR, order rarity, color, released, spoiled, EDHREC. So I'm going to briefly explain what these are. Order it by the alphabetical name of the artist. Order it by the CMC. Order it by power, toughness, set. I believe it would be alphabetical. Order set. Let's test this out. Order set. Let's see. So if we did order set, then it would be it would just group them together by set, and I guess it would be not alphabetical. I don't know, honestly. It orders it by set. It orders it by name, so that's alphabetical by name. Order by price, order by rarity, simple enough. Color, Wooburg most likely. Order by released, basically when it was let out. Order by spoiled, this can be good if you're looking at spoilers. And order by how much it's played on EDHREC. You can also see printings of cards preferentially shown. I just covered that a bit ago. And that's kind of it. This is how you do syntax. I recommend, I've said this before, I think, I recommend that what you do is you just, for the next while, you know, once you have a hang of it, you won't really need, just, you know what, here's what I'm going to say. Make a resolution, or it doesn't even have to be a resolution, just don't use the advanced search on scryfall. If you need to look up anything, then do it with syntax. If you don't know how, I will be leaving a link in the description to a search reference. Simple enough, just go through here, look for what you're looking for, and you should be able to find it. If it is on advanced, I guarantee you it is on the search reference. It is so much more powerful, and you will never go back. One more thing that I didn't actually say in the search reference. I'm not sure if it's here or if I just missed it. Yeah, it's not there. That's quite weird. So, I'm not sure why, but there are apparently at least one keyword, two actually, that they don't reference. So, one is the legal keyword. They just say format instead of it, which is fine. And the second one is the lore keyword. So the lore keyword will basically search the entire card. So basically that can be extremely useful if you want to look at flavor text, if you want to look at power, things like that. It can be super useful for if you want to find references to your favorite card or your favorite character. If you're making a thematic deck, for example, that can be incredibly useful. Or if you're just looking for, I don't know, remember Morrow's spoilers where he said that there'd be a card with all these numbers on it somewhere? That would be a way you could use it. So that is incredibly great. That is incredibly useful. I mean, yeah, like it's just incredibly useful and great to be able to do. So other than that, there's not really much to it. Just learn it, right? And remember how many things you're going to be able to do eventually. In the beginning, you're going to be a little bit confused. You're going to be like, okay, how do I do this? But you should be able to figure it out over time. I recommend just keep it, this depends on how much you use scryfall, but keep a tab open of the search reference, and you will look at it whenever you need it. So, also, if you're really confused, what you can do, just don't use advanced too much, is you can go on advanced, you can fill in the category you're thinking of, and you can just type it out. So flavor text, we want Yawgmoth. We want Yawgmoth in the flavor text. But I have no idea how I'm supposed to do that I don't know how I'm supposed to do that in Oracle. And you know what you do? You type it out in the advanced search, and it will show up in the search bar. The thing that you typed out in the advanced search, will show up in the search bar. So you can look at that and be like, oh, that's how I'm supposed to do it. And then add that to what you're working on. That is how that works. So, thank you for listening. I will see you next week with syntax. I'm not 100% sure if I will be able to do it next week. I am honestly learning how to use it, and I'm not the best at it, so I'm going to wait until I'm 100% confident in my teaching ability and my understanding of it, and giving examples and actually being good at it. But for now, most likely I will have a set review. Sorry, not a set review. I will have a part 3 of this next week. But if it doesn't come next week, then it will come in 2 weeks. Thank you for listening, and I will see you next time.